right, what is up, guys? Welcome to You Heard with Nerds. We are doing a Thursday throwback.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Dorian, and I'm joined today by...
I'm Brett, always.
Always and
always
forever.
Here. But yeah, Batman Begins.
Batman Begins is what we're talking about today.
So, and this is an interesting topic because my brain can make the argument to myself
Okay.
that I like this just as much as The Dark Knight.
You know, I can see the reason why, just because this is more...
It's more superhero.
Well, yeah, this is more of like a traditional superhero movie here, whereas The Dark Knight is more of a crime movie for the most part, a crime thriller.
For sure.
Just with like comic book characters in them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what was your first impressions when you saw this movie? Or like, what was like the first, like, describe to me the first time you saw this movie. Like what was going on at the time with young Brett?
Young Brett. So this movie came out in 2005.
2005, yeah.
So I was 16.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember when I actually saw it.
Okay. Did you see it in theaters?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, I can't really remember the first time I saw it, but I just remember like the time of it was around. I mean, there's a lot of big movies coming out around that time. I feel like there was Star Wars, and then
Revenge of the Sith was, I think, the one that kind of led off that summer season for that year.
Yeah, and so I love this movie. This movie was. I don't think I was like I wanted this movie so bad. You know, I wanted more Batman. Okay. At that point, we hadn't had Batman for quite a while.
And forever.
I mean, we did have Batman and Robin after forever. But yeah, I mean, so for my background, so I grew up watching the Michael Keaton Batman movies.
Right, yeah.
And also the Batman show with my dad. I'd always watch the old...
Adam West?
Adam West Batman.
Okay.
I mean, I just loved Batman. I loved everything about him.
You also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you dabbled with the 90s animated series.
Oh,
right?
that was my jam.
Yeah.
Everything Batman. Like, literally, for Christmas, it would be Batman stuff. That's what all I'd want. Or Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles. That was pretty much my top three.
Yeah. Batman,
Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. And so, loved Batman. I loved all the movies growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, even Batman and Robin, I think as a kid is like, it's cheese, so you love it. Every kid loves cheese, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, well, as a kid, you don't know any better.
No.
Ignorance is bliss.
I would say I didn't watch Batman 89 as much as I watched Returns. Returns I watched way more.
Really?
I think the first one was just a little bit more dark, and the second one was a little bit less dark, if that makes any sense for a kid.
I don't know, because I mean that movie gets pretty dark with like Catwoman scratching up that guy's face towards the beginning.
I know. Okay, there's some definite scenes where I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I think I liked, for whatever reason, I liked Danny DeVito.
Yeah, I mean he's probably like, I don't know. He's kind of scary.
He is. I don't know why I like those movies. I just did because it's Batman.
I mean, fair enough. I mean,
and then I think when Batman Forever came out, that was probably my more favorite one because it's more geared towards kids. I feel like.
Yeah.
And then for sure, Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
But no, huge Batman fan growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was super ready for this movie. I mean, I don't really remember the first time, but I do remember going, "Holy crap, that was an awesome movie."
Yeah.
Awesome movie.
Yeah.
What about you?
So here's the thing. This movie was nowhere on my radar when I was a kid. I was probably, I want to say about 13 roughly when this came out.
You were in like 14 probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
we're only 2 years apart.
Right, but...
Oh, you're talking about birthday-wise?
Yeah, birthday-wise.
It was your 14th year, basically.
Yeah, it was my 14th year, but I think I was 13 during that time. So, long story short, I had no idea this movie was coming out until I went and saw Revenge of the Sith, which was like the only movie on my radar for pretty much that year.
I mean, I got deep. Like, this was before like YouTube, obviously, and I think the internet to the extent it is now. And I would scour the internet for like Justice League rumors, Batman Beyond TV, like movie rumors. Like, there was a lot of that stuff back around this time. Like before Batman Begins came out, there was rumors of a Justice League movie and or Batman Beyond.
Yeah, no, because there there was a
Because
lot.
Batman Beyond was popping then, like right before that it ended.
No, it's a really interesting thing about like the whole like how Batman Begins became to be, because after Batman and Robin, they went back to the drawing board real quick, and they were trying to figure out exactly what they were going to do. At first, they were going to like maybe do a year one movie that was like really dark, like almost like rated R dark, and Frank Miller would be attached to it. There was also going to be a possibility of like a Batman Beyond movie that had Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne reprising his role.
That could have been awesome.
That could have been awesome, yeah. So, but you know, that being said, I mean,
as long as you got Will Friedle to play Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, but that being said,
who, if you don't know, is the voice of him and the older brother Eric on Boy Meets World.
There you go. But no, that being said, I mean, but all those things didn't pan out, and this was the movie that we got here.
Which I'm not complaining at all.
I am not complaining at all whatsoever. But so this movie nowhere near on my radar when during the time it came out. So then the summer goes by, and all the kids in school are talking about it. I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't understand. Like, Star Wars came out. Why are you guys not talking about that? And they're like, oh no, dude. Batman Begins is where it's at. I'm like, all right, well, I guess gotta watch it. So, and here's the thing. I'm not somebody who's a stranger to Batman. I grew up watching the Adam West show. I watched a little bit of the animated series. I didn't get like super into it just because like when we moved up from California, my family cut the cable, so I couldn't watch like cable or TV shows like
homeschoolers, man.
Yep.
Homeschoolers.
Yep.
Robbing you of this great joy
of childhood.
Yep.
So, but that being said, yeah, and I didn't even see Batman '89 before I saw this movie.
Okay.
None of the Michael Keaton movies, none of the Joel Schumacher movies. So that's
an interesting background to go into this movie with.
It really is, because when I watched this movie, I kind of associated Batman with more as like kind of campy, kind of kids, more for kids here. And so then I watched this movie, and it redefined what Batman was for me. Like, I'm like, oh, I didn't know this could this is what Batman could be here.
Right.
And I got the DVD for this movie that Christmas, and I watched it so much I was able to quote the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean,
at that point.
I was right there with you. Like, me and my little brother would watch this all the time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it did get to a point. I still quoted it when I rewatching this movie. My wife had never seen it.
Yeah, just recently. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, her first impressions, I'll try to do the best of representing, but she doesn't like. She likes superhero movies. She does.
But she's probably grown a lot more accustomed to like the Marvel way of doing it.
100%. And so for her watching this, she was like, wow, I could see why you really like this. There's action. There's, Batman, obviously. It's like a thriller. Mm-hmm. She's like, but it was scary. And I was just like trying to think about it. And I'm like, it actually is pretty scary if you have no idea what you're expecting going into this.
Yeah.
Like, if I was younger, if I was your age or maybe a little bit younger seeing this movie, I would probably be afraid too.
Yeah.
With the Scarecrow stuff and everything that happens. She enjoyed it.
Sure.
She's excited for the next movie, which is, for all intents and purposes, tone-wise, very different. Very different. Mm-hmm. But like I'm saying, like, this holds a different place, I think, in my heart than Dark Knight. And I think almost equally as much because of what it did. Like you said, redefining Batman. Mm-hmm. We got, we'll talk about more of this stuff later, but it really gave us a fuller picture of who Batman is.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And Bruce Wayne. So
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. This movie is very different from like the previous Batman movies. And for one of the things is like, it's right in the title, Batman Begins. They're going back to like exactly like who Batman was before he became Batman, how he became Batman. Whereas like you go to, like any of the other live action movies that came out, and I'm even talking like the Adam West 66 Batman.
Oh yeah, that's
like,
a great one.
It's like they never actually focus on like,
who is Batman?
Who is Batman, and also like how did he become Batman? They always
focus on the villain.
Well, they always focus on the villain, but they also focus on like having Batman just already established, and like you're just basically just going along for the ride, just
Right.
right off the bat.
Yeah.
And, and I think it was kind of a little bit of a risky move just because I think from a studio perspective, they would say, no, like audience want to see more Batman. Give us more Batman. Batman doesn't show up till like, in the full suit until like an hour in of this movie. And like,
almost an hour.
and here's the thing, the first half of this movie I think is good, but it's like, if you change the names, like if you didn't call Bruce Wayne, and Ra's al Ghul here, this would have just looked like it was a kung fu movie or something like that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like going initially. So it's kind of unconventional in that regard here in terms of like superhero movies, or at least Batman movies in that.
I kind of agree. I don't think it's an unconventional way of approaching Batman, because if you read the comics or had seen some of the animated series, you got a glimpse into his background and his martial arts training before he became Batman.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it's unconventional for the Batman mythos. I'm just saying movie wise, this is something that has not been done before.
So far, yeah, because I was going to kind of get to that. This is literally the first origin of Bruce Wayne to Batman we get on the screen. Mm-hmm. We get the crime alley scenes in all the movies, but we never get how did he actually get to where he was as an established Batman.
How did he get from point A to point B? Because I mean, the movies and like pretty much every Batman media, like whatever it is, they always love to show the crime alley scenes, but they don't necessarily like to, necessarily connect the dots. They like to, have it be a flashback or something like that.
And that's what we kind of got was like, and that was honestly probably one of my major points of contention for this being kind of convoluted in the beginning of the movie was how many time skips they do, and they don't explain it at all. Like,
no.
And so you're like, wait a second. Like when he comes back from Princeton,
he
doesn't look any different than he does later in the movie.
No, like I remember when I first,
and I was like, when does this take place?
Right.
Like I was very confused as a young person. Like,
when I first watched it, I was like, okay. Like, wait, what's going on now? Like, he's back in Gotham. Now he's going to try to go shoot a guy, I guess. Like, is this part of his training? And then like after, or like at the end of like the flashback, it ties it into like where like, okay, this is him like going off the radar, just
how he got to where he was in the movie already.
Exactly.
And that they don't explain any of that, which is fine because later on you'll figure it out, I guess. My wife even asked me, she goes, wait, so did he lie to Alfred and say he was going to college and then went and trained instead? And I'm like, yeah, I think I thought that too when it first came out. But no, he's supposed to be younger here, and then he goes back to like his training with Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of like my only kind of cause of contention with this movie as far as like
just like
convolutedness of not having it be clear, but I was okay with it. Once you understand it, is great.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things that like, yes, when it happens on screen, you kind of take a double take and you're kind of confused for a moment, but then
his hair's different. That's really all the clues we have.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. But yeah. One of the things that this movie did that I don't think any of the other superhero movies were doing at the time, and even nowadays, is the focus on realism.
Yeah. For the most part.
I mean, basically this is a Batman movie. If you were going to make a realistic Batman movie, this is it. I mean,
okay. So let's go with the realism thing, and I want to play devil's advocate a little, because these are
hear
questions I had written down when I was watching this movie where I was like, wait, what?
Okay. All right, let's hear it.
Okay. So, League of Shadows, right? We're talking about him training.
Yep.
They want him like a part of his training is to execute this guy who stole land and murdered someone.
Correct. Yep. I know where you're going with this.
Yes. Instead of just executing this one man, he lights the entire place on fire.
Yeah.
And it explodes with those people in it.
Yeah.
Saving Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Okay. He just killed potentially an entire army of people.
Keyword is potentially, because those guys do come back.
Some of them do.
Later in the movie. And plus, they're all ninjas. I feel like that's the first thing you learn in your first day of ninja school is like how to escape a exploding building here.
Maybe. But so Batman doesn't kill people.
Except for when he does.
Except for when he does. And you could look at Ra's and be like, well, he's just getting his revenge on Bruce for destroying everything he's built. Maybe Batman's the villain of this movie. And like, wouldn't you be mad if you had a ninja school, brought this guy into your school?
Yeah.
and he's just like, no, I'm gonna burn this place to the ground instead and blow it up, and you're done.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, you got to figure like, okay, the ninja school is essentially ISIS, and they're gonna go kill a bunch of people in America.
So
and stuff
Bruce
like
did
that.
it for all his own selfish gain.
Well,
He didn't have to train with them.
Well, he didn't, but he didn't know that this was their plan until like.
They're freaking ninjas who live on a mountain. Of course, they're gonna go in and do whatever they want.
Yeah, but I mean, he was.
I thought he has genius intellect.
Well, I mean, it's Batman Begins. It's the journey to him getting the genius at intellect.
Okay, and then my other around the same topic.
But I mean, that's not really an issue with the realism. That's just an issue with.
No, 100% is.
Well, that's just an issue with like the writing.
Okay, do you want to go realism?
Let's go.
Okay, after that place explodes, they slide off into the ice. Bruce grabs him. His arm is fully extended out down a cliff.
Yep.
And this freaking guy.
So real quick, I just rewatching this movie. I just like how Liam Neeson slides on that ice because you would think like he's got his like face propped up sliding while he's unconscious.
Yeah.
When it should just be dragging across the ground.
Oh, 100%.
But I mean, I get it. Liam Neeson doesn't want to, ruin the moneymaker.
Right.
But anyhow, continue.
So Liam Neeson falls off.
Yes.
Bruce catches him with his arm.
Yep.
His arm's overly extended.
And then he like hooks.
Then he literally curls him up with one arm.
Yep.
How is that real?
He's Batman.
He doesn't have superpowers. This is bull.
Yeah, no. That's yeah.
They're reaching right there for sure.
They are reaching, but I mean,
I can see like a two-handed grab, like if he would have just spun around and grabbed him.
Yeah, exactly. But it's
And they're on ice. There's no traction.
Right. Like I said, this is the most realistic Batman movie you could make here, per se.
Except for that scene. That scene is
Fair
poop.
enough. But I mean, it's like, again.
I like it because he's strong as F, but
sure, and you want him to be strong as F here.
Yeah.
But
that was the other thing. Looking at him, like he's in good shape.
Oh,
he's not huge in this movie.
Not like not like The Rock or something like that here.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's
definitely fit. He's definitely been working out, but it's like I think being younger and when I was like skinny, I was like, wow, this guy's huge. And then when I got older and bigger, I was like, he's not that big actually.
Yeah.
But he's in really good shape.
Yeah, no, he definitely is in really good shape.
But those are kind of my gripes kind of with that. And then just like Batman plot holes in general of this just being an okay thing that this guy runs around and is a vigilante and is literally he's a sociopath.
Well, I was kind of thinking about that last night after seeing your notes. I'm like, technically every superhero is a sociopath here because you got
Messiah complex for sure.
Well, yeah, Superman, but like, I was looking up like some of the defining traits of sociopath, and essentially like what I came up with is one of the things is like, no sense of like, of safety for oneself, pathological lying and stuff like that, which I mean, here's the thing.
That's what Bruce Wayne does.
Well, that's what every superhero does.
They have to.
That has a secret identity.
Yeah.
There was a couple others, but I just remember thinking like, okay, like these traits could be applied to pretty much like most of our superheroes that we have on the market here. But I mean, yeah, Bruce Wayne definitely has like a little bit of mental instability to say the least here.
Oh, big time. Like same level as Joker, in my opinion. He even says it at the end, like Commissioner Gordon goes.
Yeah, it's like escalation, and then
you run around with a mask on your face, and you're a sociopath, and there's just as big a sociopath pops up who has a greeting card.
Yeah.
That's that whole, like, if Batman never existed, would it have ever escalated that far?
I mean, there is a duality between, like, Joker and Batman for sure. I mean, because, that's kind of what The Killing Joke pretty much explores here for the most part, is kind of like they are kind of two sides of the same coin here. Just one is, on the side of the better angels here, or the side of the angels or whatever. And then the other, and he has purpose and drive here. The other one is just more about chaos and like trying to show the flaws in like, morality and society here, so to speak.
It is literally you as Batman and Tim Seabrecht as Joker.
Kind of, yeah.
That's where I'm going with.
But no, I mean, the point I'm trying to make with the whole realism thing is like, here's the thing. Is this movie realistic?
No.
Like completely? No, it's not. But
It's a comic book movie.
But it's
It's the most realistic we've gotten.
this is the most realistic we got. I can't really think of too many things that I would change to say, okay, you need to make this
Right.
realistic, but it's at the same time still do service to the movie and Batman and all that here.
Yeah, I agree. And we've already talked about it, but this is pretty much a year one movie.
It absolutely is, because I mean, just to rattle off a few things. So, I mean, Batman goes full on stealth in this movie, which, as we see in year one, the scene at Arkham Asylum where the SWAT team is like, coming into the building to arrest him, and he calls all the bats to swarm the building and all that. That is straight out of year one.
Oh,
like
100%.
down to like the gadget
boot.
the gadget being on his boot and all that here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like pretty much almost the exact same scenario going on. There's also the war, Batman's war with Falcone, because Falcone essentially is the main villain, and also like corrupt cops are the main villain of year one. Yeah, exactly. You also have Batman as an urban legend, which that's something that's featured heavily in year one. Oh yeah. Obviously, we kind of mentioned it before, but Batman versus the police, because at first, Batman is not considered like, a patron saint of Gotham.
No.
And so
he's a vigilante that the police need to take down.
Exactly. And then also the interrogations, which is something that we didn't really even like see all that much in like the Michael Keaton and Joel Schumacher movies here.
Like, what do you mean by the interrogations?
So like
him talking to people? I mean, like, I need information from you. Tell me, or I'm going to beat you up.
So, I mean, that's kind of something that, like, I think the Dark Knight trilogy, like, kind of more incorporates more as a whole that you don't see in the previous Batman movies.
The detective side of being a detective?
Well, just that, and also just the interrogation that you do see in the comics. Like, you have the swear to me part.
Oh, for sure.
And you also have, like, him, like, gassing Scarecrow with his own toxin, and then saying like, "Who are you working for?" and stuff like that. And then we get the one scene in the Dark Knight, but that's a topic for next week.
Yeah, that's gonna be in our next Throwback Thursday.
Yeah. So that being said, so let's kind of talk about like what we think this movie did right. Like
there's a lot. There really is.
There is a lot. Yes. I mean, here's the thing. This movie, like we mentioned earlier, it starts out slow.
Yeah,
like,
for the most part.
It's mostly focusing on...
It's the story, the world building,
yes,
all that stuff.
It's focusing on Bruce Wayne basically training, becoming Batman, kind of, understanding his motivations and, like, his whole belief system and all that. And then, yeah, I mean, it starts out slow, but it has big payoffs, because once as you get to, like, the first scene with Batman in it, it's like, okay,
worth it.
Yeah, it's like you have the big payoff scene. 5-10 minutes go by, then it's another Batman scene. Same thing. 5-10 minutes go by, another Batman scene.
Yeah,
5-10 minutes
pacing,
go by,
in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Yeah. What about casting?
So here's the thing: Gordon, Alfred, and Lucius, Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, and Morgan Freeman. Cast perfectly. They look like they just were pretty much right out from the comics, behave exactly how you would think they behave. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, I agree 100% with the casting. Katie Holmes, honestly, superior Rachel Dawes on every level.
I would agree with that, yes.
I cannot stand Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes, and I think I was like, I mean, this is the spoilers for The Dark Knight. Do I want to spoil it? No,
we'll wait. We'll talk about it next week.
Katie Holmes, and then I love Lucius Fox. Danny Glover's great. Really like the pizzazz he brings to the role.
He really trying to start something.
Just kind of the
really brought his Lethal Weapon charm to the role. Yeah.
But just but yeah, Lucius just being almost like another like fatherly figure. If you look at who he brings into his world, it's all fatherly figures almost.
Kind of, yeah.
So you have Alfred, you have Commissioner Gordon,
Ra's al Ghul,
and you have Lucius Fox.
Kind of, yeah. And well, not to mention too, this movie does have a focus on his relationship with his dad here, and him trying to
Totally.
live up to it, or like bring his dad justice, because his dad was like his superhero in his mind.
Yeah, and you see that throughout the whole movie, which I think they did a great job of.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think I'm gonna get a little ahead of myself, but talking about how Batman's a symbol.
Yeah.
And similar to the Wayne name. It's not just you, it's what our family has stood for generations.
Exactly. And there's like that there's that one part later on in the movie. It's when Bruce is having that party that's thrown for his birthday.
Yeah.
And he's trying to like, dismiss the people and tell Alfred like, hey, you need to send all these people back. We got bigger problems going on. And he's like, those are Bruce Wayne's guests out there, sir. You have a name to live up to. And he says, I don't care about my name. He's like, but it's not just your name. It's your father's name. It's all that's left of him. Don't destroy it, basically. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, no, the whole idea of being a symbol or like having a name or something.
There's a duality like there is very much with Bruce Wayne.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I loved. I love how they roped that into it.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I do want to mention before we get too far into it here is like, in terms of the casting, like, I think like, some of the supporting roles in this movie, they absolutely nailed it, which kind of made me realize why they might be doing like some of the unconventional casting for the Robert Pattinson The Batman movie that's supposed to come out next year. Because you have Jeffrey Wright playing Commissioner Gordon, and then you also have Andy Serkis playing Alfred.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought about it as like, okay, so if you basically made like a very accurate comic portrayal of like one person in like a movie that was done not too long ago, you kind of have to do something a little different in order to like actually make it worth something. Because when Jeremy Irons played Alfred in like Batman v Superman, I forgot he was Alfred for a moment here. So I'm like,
very forgettable.
Yeah. And
I mean, and along with casting, like Christian Bale is a perfect sociopath.
I mean, he did American Psycho before this.
That's what I'm saying, is like he nails the role. I love Michael Caine, all those guys, but even I don't know the actor's name who plays Scarecrow.
Oh, it's Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy is the perfect blend of pervert.
Yeah,
he's creepy and he's scary, and you think he's gonna like. I don't know. Watching this movie, I was like, this guy's pervy because he's like kind of talking to Katie Dawes in like this very condescending way, but also like there's something between them, and you're like, what is gonna happen?
There's like an underlying tension that's going on.
It's very odd, and especially when he's sedate, like he hits her with the
fear toxin.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what is gonna happen? Like he plays that so well, though.
Yeah, no, he absolutely does. Well, and fun fact, he was originally auditioning for the part of Batman in this.
Oh,
movie.
Really?
And obviously he didn't get the part, but Christopher Nolan liked his audition so much. He's like, hey, you got some talent here. I want to incorporate you in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what else he's been in. I haven't seen him in a while.
I mean, Inception, he was in that.
Everyone in this movie is in Inception, though, pretty much.
Yeah. Even the fake Ra's al Ghul is in Inception.
He is. Yeah.
So, I mean, Christopher Nolan likes to work with actors that he's already
they trust. I get it. Yeah. I totally get it.
But, yeah, so one of the things I think this movie did very well is this essentially is a character study of Batman. It nails down who he is, what he believes, and what drives him, like we kind of mentioned beforehand. This movie does kind of, you don't see it as much in this movie as you do in like, say, The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises, but it definitely leans more onto the side of practical effects here for the most part here. You don't have like a CGI Batmobile like in every shot here or something like that.
No, and I like that a lot. I mean, it makes sense. They had to have Lucius Fox in this movie because that's where he gets all his tech from, essentially.
Essentially, yes.
And so I loved how they did that. It's believable, number one.
Yeah.
Like, Wayne Tech. Like, you have a whole technology side that had a government contract.
Yeah,
and you have all these prototypes.
Yeah, that was originally designed for the military.
That they didn't want to pay for. It didn't work. And so now you're taking full advantage of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think, like I mentioned before, this is like, making Batman as realistic as possible within like, a little bit with a little bit of margin of error here, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, it's it's a movie. You can't always like make everything as realistic as possible. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a movie for the most part, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. It has to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Um,
But one of the things that I think it does really well is it juggles 3 villains.
yeah, and when you said that, I had to think about it because I was like, wait, what? Because there's almost different acts. Like in the very beginning,
Yes.
it's Falcone.
Then it's
Or it's like Falcone and then
Scarecrow.
and then Roz is at the end, but also kind of in the middle a little bit too. When
Sure.
if they make
enemies
of each other, but
Sure, exactly.
and then you find out he's actually like been the dude the whole time.
Exactly.
And when the Scarecrow was working for him and all that. Beautiful balance, something Sam Raimi could never dream of doing.
Well, and that's the thing is like this
Meaning
movie.
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, because in Spider-Man 3, one of the big problems with that movie is it had 3 villains.
2.5.
2.5,
Yeah.
yeah. Like Venom had like 10 minutes of screen time or something like that.
Yeah, it was something terrible.
But no, they had 3 villains, and the thing is like all 3 of those villains had like their own separate storylines, their own separate motivations.
Very convoluted.
It was like just a lot of threads to like kind of follow through. And by the time like you try to get towards the end of it, it's just a tangled mess here for the most part. Whereas this movie, they kind of chose the villains. Excuse me. They chose the villains that would really like lend itself to the story and also have an interconnectivity because, at first it's Falcone and you think he's running the show, but he's...
Well, first is Joe Chill, right? Like the guy that shot... I mean, essentially, if you go all the way back to the beginning...
Sure, yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait, there's someone who led this guy kind of down this path. Now, not like 100% guiding him, hey, you need to go kill the Waynes.
Yeah, he wasn't...
It was like
he
created the despair in Gotham to have power.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's essentially like all the villains are connected and they all are serving essentially a purpose that drives like the car down the same freeway or the same direction here because you have Falcone at the beginning. You think he's just running the show, being the mob boss, but then you find out that he's partnered up with Scarecrow, which Scarecrow, you eventually find out is a proxy for Ra's al Ghul here.
Pretty much, yeah. See, Roz was kind of running the show all along.
All along, yeah, exactly. But
yeah, I think that there's a lot of different elements. So this is not a prototypical superhero movie in the sense that it draws on mostly thriller and horror vibes.
It does, yeah.
Which I didn't really get until this new walk through this movie and having so many Marvel movies that are fluffy and bright and
very
light.
Very quippy too. Like they have humor always sprinkled.
Which I love those movies. I think they're great.
No, they do.
Except for Captain Marvel. But we'll talk about the scenes in general, but because you wrote this on your notes and I did too, and I was like, wow, we're really lined up here as far as like what we believe about this.
Yeah.
But just the first appearance of full suited Batman is 100% horror.
Yes. So I mean
100%.
So it's essentially the dock scene.
Yeah, it's the dock scene
where they go to,
and I love it because it's like a flip horror scene because you're like, oh, I want them to get got.
Well, yeah.
Instead of the other where like, oh no, I hope they don't get got.
Well, because the thing is like that scene in particular, if you like, let's say you went in, you edited all the shots of Batman out, and you just see like guys screaming, running around, and getting picked off one by one.
Oh, it's so good.
Like, and if you showed that to somebody who did not know what that movie was, they would just automatically assume, oh, this is a horror movie you're showing me.
Like,
and
wrong.
Like, yeah, no, but the very first instance where you see it, like that guy just gets pulled into like the shipping crate and just into the pitch black.
That was awesome.
So there were so many parts when I rewatched this movie that I was like, let's back that up. I want to watch that again because that was so good here.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's so good. But yeah, I mean, it's essentially Batman taking the role of a horror movie monster here. And you see that in all the stealth scenes. And like, there's like,
he's the boogeyman essentially.
Essentially, yeah. And there's really just like quick scenes like that aren't like as memorable as the dog scene, but still serve like that horror movie vibe purpose here. Like the part where he's tracking down the drugs and he sees Scarecrow for the first time. You just see him like kind of in the background, like rising up a little bit. And then that one guy, he's like taking a piss and then he just smashes his face against the mirror and all that. And he's just coming out of the darkness. It's so great.
I love it.
Yeah, it's real good. So let's talk about Bruce Wayne himself here and just Christian Bale. Yeah. So Bruce Wayne or Christian Bale, I think the popular opinion is he does portray the best Bruce Wayne like live action on screen.
100%.
I mean, some people still do like Michael Keaton as like, the overall Batman, but most people do agree that he does have the best portrayal of Bruce Wayne. I personally like him as both my favorite.
I think he's close for me too. Yeah.
I like him both as my favorite Bruce Wayne and Batman here. I think he just nails it.
Yeah. I love Christian Bale's performance on both sides of it. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about most of it later, but just like, the kind of the themes within the movie too. Oh yeah. Just like fear and overcoming it and embracing them to conquer them type of thing. That's pretty much the whole movie's about.
Well, yeah, and not to mention too, there is like a quite a few morals or like values that are set in this movie. Like for one, like the difference between justice and revenge.
Yep.
Just in terms of like who are you going to be in life? Is it who you are, like who you think you are, or is it what you do, your actual actions here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not who I am underneath,
but what I do
that defines
me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love speaking of that line, actually, there's lots of call and repeats and a lot of payoff with those. So what I mean by that is, when Bruce is like 20 something out of college, he's talking to the homeless guy. He's like, "Oh, it's a nice coat." He's just like, he hands him the coat and he's just like,
he's trying to go incognito.
Yeah, he takes his
out
coat.
Of Dodge.
Yeah. And then later on, he's Batman and he sees the same homeless guy and he goes, "Nice coat."
Yeah.
And then he's just gone. And you're like, okay, that's cool. And then did you get the memo line?
When Thomas Earl tells Lucius Fox
he's fired.
When he's fired, he's like, "Didn't you get the memo?"
And at the very end, he's in the boardroom. He's like, "I didn't call a meeting." He's like, "Didn't you get the memo?"
Yeah, he's like, flip the script here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it's not who I am, who you are underneath. That's what I do that defines me. Rachel Dawes said that to Bruce when he was 20, about to kill that Joe Chill.
Well, no, it's actually when he comes back to Gotham, and he's like,
Oh, that's right. When he first comes back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when he like actually comes back, like to Gotham to be Batman.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what hasn't exactly aged well. We kind of got into it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, I would say.
But I think Christian Bale's voice. I mean, here's the thing. It's
kind of messy.
It is kind of messy. I mean, there are definitely in spots. It's like, okay, yeah, you probably should have made it sound a little different or a little bit more normal or something like that. But I mean, I'm kind of a little bit more of a defender on that here because when it works, it most certainly works. But
yeah,
but no, I mean, there's definitely parts of it where it's kind of like, yeah, okay, type of thing. But there's also some cheesy lines that mostly I feel like they come from Scarecrow, and that where it's just like it's not something I really hold against this movie all too much, just because this was kind of a product of the time where you would have like superhero movies, I would say, like some pretty cringy, cheesy lines here or something like that. Like just look towards Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and you will find an abundance there. But but a lot of the action scenes in this movie are quick cuts. So like you won't. So like you look at, say, a modern action movie like John Wick, that they kind of almost try to keep the camera on him for as long as possible in a shot here. Whereas this, like, they make it real quick, couple of takes, all that stuff. So it kind of helps hide like maybe any blemishes you had during like filming or something like that. But it makes it kind of like hard to see exactly what is going on here, which is something that kind of does improve like later on in these movies, but it's still kind of one of the things that makes itself really well known in this movie in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the action can be hard to follow at times, especially when Batman's fighting a bunch of different bad guys.
Yeah, I mean,
You're like, what is going on? Like the camera's spinning around.
Yeah.
And I think that was also because of
the limitations of the suit.
Yeah,
here.
totally.
Yeah,
and that's why we got a whole different suit in the second movie.
You're probably right on that front here, but yeah, I mean, it's mostly like the hand-to-hand fight scenes that you see that in, which, I mean, I get it. It's probably just one of the things to kind of hide the fact that this guy can barely move in the suit here. But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just the idea that everyone's okay with Bruce being a sociopath. I get it because that's what Batman is.
Sure.
But it was weird to me how on board Alfred was immediately. He's like, wait, I thought you were dead for the last 7 years.
I mean,
okay, you want to be a superhero oh yeah, cool, sounds good.
Well, I mean, Alfred says that the CEO of Wayne Enterprises, Thomas Earl, was the one that declared him dead because he wanted to liquidate his shares in the company.
I guess so. Alfred probably knew he was alive.
So Alfred probably knew he was alive, and then also there's that other line in the movie after he goes in on the rampage with the Batmobile. He says when you told me your grand plan for saving Gotham, the only thing that stopped me from calling those men in white coats that's
true,
that
yeah.
you weren't about thrill seeking. So Alfred, I think, definitely did have some doubts, but obviously it didn't really show that during that time in the movie here, or really capitalize on
totally
that. Yeah.
And then more devil's advocate stuff was with Gordon, is he actually a good cop?
I mean, in Gotham he's the best cop there is, and that's not saying much.
No.
I mean,
or is he gonna be one? I mean, I think we want to believe that, but when he teams up with this guy who doesn't know, and you're like, I trust you.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you seem legit. You're running around in a bat suit beating up people. And
well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's yes, Batman is doing more than the police force in Gotham has ever done. They legitimately are being bought off by the mob here. So he's
in droves. Yeah. It's not just one guy. It's all of them, basically.
Exactly. So, and then there's also the fact that, there was even that one line that you kind of think it might have actually played to something or allude to something a little bit bigger. When he first has that conversation with Gordon as Batman, and he's talking about, just everything that's going on, and he's getting intel from Gordon. He's and Batman asks him, what do you think about me? He's like, I think you're trying to help. And then Batman, disappears, and then Gordon's like, but I've been wrong before. And you never really see that pan out in that movie here. You never really see him.
I think because he ends up earning his trust, kind of, maybe with following through with what he's actually saying he's going to do.
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, it's also one of those things where it's you look at this in comparison to year one, because year one in that comic book, Batman and Gordon are pretty much at odds with each other for the entire run of that, until the very end when Batman saves his son from the mob here, and then he earns his trust. I felt like if they did something a little bit more akin to that, that would have probably...
I mean, that materialized in the next movie a little bit.
It definitely does, but I mean, yeah, if they did something kind of like that, that would probably be a little bit more believable in terms of Gordon's willingness to just accept Batman as an ally here, as opposed to
just
a threat.
Being okay with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's all I have for what hasn't aged well. I think for the majority it's what aged pretty well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk about our favorite scenes here.
Yeah.
So we already talked about it beforehand, but the first scene with Batman, which is the scene with the docks.
I love the line at the end of that scene where he pulls Falcone out of the and he's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Batman."
Yeah.
And then he looks at the guy. He's like,
"Nice go." Yeah. No, I mean, again, it's legitimately a horror movie scene.
Yeah, where are you?
With Batman as the horror movie monster.
Yeah.
And no, it's absolutely great.
Swear to me.
Yes.
That line, it's sacrilegious, but it's a good line.
It's a good line, and that whole scene.
Swear to me.
That whole scene is I think, a justification for Christian Bale's voice, because you're like, oh crap,
He's pissed. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he he wants something, and this guy's gonna give it to him because
pretty much.
he's scary as everything right now.
Yeah.
But the Arkham scene,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a
With little baby Joffrey.
No.
Which Arkham scene?
So the Arkham scene is like when Rachel goes to Arkham Asylum, confronts Crane. Crane hits her with the fear gas.
Yeah.
And then Batman comes in, and then you have that awesome stealth scene where, he takes out the guys one by one, ends up interrogating Crane by
Hitting him with his own
medicine. Yep.
That's good.
And then you have the whole swarm of bats come in.
As he jumps down that corridor.
As he jumps down the corridor. Yep, exactly. Now, probably my favorite scene from this movie is the tumbler chase scene, aka the Batmobile. Now, I will say, going into this, for somebody whose one rule is not to kill people, he was definitely towing the line there pretty hard here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love the line when Gordon's like, okay, good, I'll get my car. And he's like,
I brought mine.
Yeah. And then he's like,
yours.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he sees the tumbler.
Yep.
That was great.
No, it's just, I think what this movie, and then I think what the trilogy does super well is the vehicle chase scenes or the vehicle action scenes, because they're very creative. They're very...
Justin Lin was probably in on it.
Maybe.
He's the guy from Fast and the Furious.
Except, like, they kind of actually, I don't know, believe that physics exists in this movie.
Have you seen the new trailer for Fast 9?
No, I'm talking about in this movie.
Oh,
here.
yeah. They do believe in physics.
Yeah, compared to Fast and the Furious, they absolutely do. But
yeah, Sky Mission.
Sky Mission. But, no, I remember the first time seeing this scene and watching this movie. I'm like, oh, my gosh, I didn't know the Batmobile was, like, that crazy where it could like just freaking wreck everything in its path and stuff like that. And
it really wasn't.
Yeah, beforehand it wasn't, but
it
was just one of those things that redefined what the kind of like what the Batmobile could do here.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Final thoughts on the movie?
So I think this movie is one of the rare instances where a reboot of a movie franchise is not only good, but it also outdoes what preceded it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think it's a prime example on how to do an origin story. You make it a character study. You explore like kind of what makes the character have depth about him and all that.
Yeah, and I think that if we like that, again, watching this movie just makes me think it's like, okay, what are they going to do with the Robert Pattinson Batman? Because they've already done a Batman Year One.
Right. And so I actually looked this up last night because I'm like thinking, wait, because is Robert Pattinson going to be Year One? Because, obviously, all the signs are pointing to it just because younger cast, younger Batman, all that other stuff.
Maybe not a Year One.
Well, they said it's going to be more kind of detective noir type thing here, but I think
he might be like a couple years in.
But I think like you're definitely going to have some Year One elements.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah. But no, I think, out of all the superhero movies from like the early and mid 2000s, because I have like this theory that 2008 was the year that changed superhero movies because you got Iron Man and The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And before,
really, it did.
Before that, you had, kind of things like Daredevil, you had Spider-Man, Superman Returns, X-Men.
Yep.
Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I think out of like all those like kind of, early 2000s, mid 2000s superhero movies, this is the best one out of anyone by far. I think, for all intents and purposes, this is the Year One movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like you mentioned, I think it does make me wonder, like, how exactly are they going to go about it with the Robert Pattinson movie? Because it does seem like they kind of are trying to play towards the Year One storyline, but at the same time, they haven't officially come out and said, yes, we're doing Year One.
They probably won't, though, is what I'm guessing, just because of how many villains are going to be in that movie. It's going to be a rogues gallery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing Batman's really trying to solve something, and these are the people he knows, so he's going to them to be like, hey, And that's not to say any of them will have a large role. Like with that many villains, they could tie it in well. But like, Colin Farrell's Penguin could just be the Penguin gangster that owns a nightclub.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to be a supervillain.
Or he's the guy that's like essentially providing somebody with like
intel
or black weapons black market weapons.
Yeah.
And I mean, no, absolutely.
So I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with it. I'm hopeful. I am I like the casting they've done so far. I'm kind of interested to see what they'll do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Any other final thoughts on your end?
Yeah. Is it Roz or Raish?
So I've heard arguments for both. Because,
I always grew up thinking it was Raish.
Right, because, I mean, traditionally in the comics, it is pronounced Raish. But because Raish Al Ghul has like an Arabic origin, I hear there's like no like word that is pronounced Raish in the Arabic language. It's pronounced
So they
Roz.
went way back to the
It's a possibility. That's something I heard. I don't know if it's actually accurate here, so take it with a grain of salt.
I thought it was interesting when they're talking about the Batcave that the Underground Railroad was the proprietor of how the Batcave was there.
Yeah,
I was like, you want to tie slavery into this movie?
Well,
like
anti-slavery, essentially.
Like I know, but I was just like, okay, that I guess it adds to the Wayne name. Like, hey, they were trying to like get slaves to the north, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, they were they were a part of the essentially like the movement that helped get slaves free. But it's also, I think, just one of those things that was kind of thrown in there as kind of more of a way to explain, like, okay, this is why this space underneath the house exists here for the most part, and this is why there's like essentially like
an elevator that has a secret passageway already,
elevator shaft, and all this other stuff here. Yeah,
I mean, it's believable for sure.
No, it absolutely is.
But yeah, that's it for our Thursday throwback on Batman Begins. Thanks for listening to this and our future episodes. Next Monday will be our next weekly show, and then next Thursday we'll be covering The Dark Knight. And so if you've liked the Batman Begins, be sure to stick around for that. You can hit us up on our Patreon, patreon.com/withnerds. Help to support the show. You get additional content, all that good stuff. But yeah, check us out on social media. We love you. Have an awesome week. And remember, everyone's a nerd about something.